Hey there. Hi, Christy. We're live now.
Hello.
Nice to have you. So, just before we start, I just wanted to introduce Christy. She's a mindset and result coach. I've known you, Christy, for a little while now. We've worked together. We've achieved lots of things together as well,
We have.
as far as I'm concerned. And I'm so thankful that you are on the show today. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me. It's awesome to be here, and I love what you're doing. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So would you like to introduce yourself firstly and tell us a little bit of your background, where you come from and where you're heading in terms of business?
Of course. Yeah, sure. So, for those of you I haven't met before, my name's Christy Roberts, and I'm the founder of Creating Change. I'm a mindset and results coach, and I'm also a self-directed healing practitioner. So from a business perspective, my background is human resources and organisational development. So I've done a lot of work in that space. And about 5 years ago, I moved into the coaching space, and I've never looked back. It's been like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I think you probably found that when you hit coaching as well, right?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, this is it. And so my work is all about living your best life in spite of the stuff, the crap that life can actually throw us. And so we'll be talking a little bit about that today. But in my self-directed healing, that's a really powerful healing modality that works with deep emotional pain. So trauma, grief, anger, anxiety, overwhelm, stress, guilt, shame, like deep emotional pain and limiting beliefs. And we shift them energetically out of your body. It's really powerful. It's quite revolutionary. Because here, I don't know if you know this, but Australia is like the second largest medicated, when it comes to prescriptions for medication for depression and anxiety, we're the second largest in the world. Like, that's an issue. And there's so much more healing available to us that's natural, that's organic, that's healthy for us. And so self-directed healing is a really powerful and revolutionary new modality on the market to help people with that deep emotional pain. So so I'm building my business. I run workshops. I've got a How to Master Your Time workshop, crucial conversations. So when relationships break down, why do they break down? How can we get them back on track? There's lots of different work that I'm doing, but it's all ultimately driven around how you can be your best version of yourself and live your best life.
Yeah, definitely. So healing, I had that experience with you in terms of healing. I've been coached by you for healing, and it creates so much change within myself. It created so much change within myself. And one thing that I think will turn that around, when you talk about healing, we're going to go into your story that comes with healing. How do you make that happen for oneself? Once you can get coached from it, but once once after the coaching, how do you make that a constant? And I would like you to talk about, how do you make that for yourself, like the healing process?
Yeah, 100%. So that self-directed healing is exactly that. It's called self-directed healing for a reason, as you know. When we go in, there's certain strategy and process that we use. But basically what we're doing at sort of a very high level is we're working with emotional pain in your body. So when you, for example, feel an emotion, where is it in the body? Like, we actually target, where are you feeling it in your body physically? And we anchor it in that spot, and then you feel it more. So if you're feeling angry, it's like, I'm angry, I'm really, really angry. Where is it? It's in my head, right? Feel it in your head. And then what we want you to do is we want you to expand it, like, be angrier. And what happens energetically is when you really feel a deep emotion, at its extent, it will energetically shift. It actually releases and moves. There's science behind this, a lot of science, but it moves energetically and shifts through your body. When you've fully felt it and it releases, what happens is there's a calmness that comes because you actually release that emotion out of your body. So if you're wanting to do it for yourself, I always recommend, you really need to have a session with a practitioner to begin with. And usually it takes 2 or 3 sessions to actually learn how to do it yourself. But it's a practice. It's like anything. It's like going to the gym, right? You get better. The more you do it, you get better at it. But how it works, and you've had a few sessions, so you'll know what I'm talking about. It's what are you feeling? Or it could be a limiting belief. Where is it in your body? Anchor it, expand it, feel it more, feel it as much as you can possibly feel it, like layer the pain on. And as it shifts, it'll shift through your body. It'll move.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit where your story starts after starting coaching. You've lost your son about more than a year ago now. And how did that not only affect your life, but how did that affect and help in terms of healing and understanding the healing process of going through that grief, that deep, traumatic grief?
Yeah. And I want to preface this by saying I am still grieving. Like, you don't heal grief. Grief doesn't go away. So my story, so I'd been coaching for a number of years. I'd literally transformed a number of things in my life. Like, I was overweight. I was traveling 2.5 hours a day to work in the city at a job I didn't really enjoy. Like, there was a lot of stuff about my life that was quite ordinary. And through coaching, I shifted all that and moved it around. And then bang, tragedy struck. And the thing about accidents and trauma is you just never know when it's going to happen, right? But this happened to me. I got a phone call. It was 6:30 in the morning, and my 18-year-old son, larger than life, Aaron, is charismatic, cheeky, like the best kid you'll ever meet. He was in a car accident and he died on scene. So, like, bang, in the blink of an eye, my whole life changed. And there's no coming back from something like that. There's so many lessons that I've learned. And you know what? Thank God for my coaching, because it really helped me, because I was already working with mindset and living good life. And I had a lot of strategies and a lot of tools at my disposal and people in my world that could really help me. But, you know, grief is such a physical experience. And that's something, I had no idea, but it's such a physical experience. A couple of weeks in, the shock, like my whole chest was starting to constrict, because when it comes to emotions, they actually have weight. And, you know, David Hawkins has a map of consciousness that actually shows the weight of different emotions, which is really powerful for those watching that are interested. And grief is a very heavy emotion. And so it actually weighs, it's tiring, it's exhausting, it weighs you down. And when you're in that really early acute phase, you know, like from the shock, you get dehydrated. My chest was tight. I started going in my throat. I was coughing. I thought I had corona, because this is March last year when we went into restrictions, right? And so anyway, because I'd seen the self-directed healing, I went and got a session. And in that hour and a half, like, I kid you not, everything was gone. It was literally like I biologically shifted the chemicals in my body.
Like the physical pain was
all gone.
Okay.
Gone. And I was in a lot of physical pain. Yeah. I was really weighed down. Like, my heart, I was getting heart palpitations. Like, it was quite severe. I'm not talking about little stuff here. Like, I was in a lot of physical pain and had a lot of different symptoms. And through this process of releasing the emotions energetically and getting them out, it was like driving through a really foggy cloud, and all of a sudden I could see again. Even my speech changed because it was thick, but I didn't even realize, because I was in shock, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, like, I could speak like clearly again. There was a clarity. It was absolutely remarkable. So, like, I'm like, oh my God. So I signed up. I've done the practitioner training, and now I'm actually their senior trainer, and I run the practitioner training worldwide. That's how passionate I am about this process. And so we've got a couple of hundred practitioners in the world now. We're starting to move. It's in massive expansion. But going back to the grief, you know, I think the other thing that I learned is that we don't know how long we're here for, right?
Yeah.
Like, we actually don't know. And so what are we doing with our time? Because death can hit any of us at any time, any age, anywhere. Like, we don't know. And so, you know, my work of helping people to live their best life, I don't think there's anything more important that I could be doing. And for me, it's a beautiful way to build Aaron's legacy and create meaning. I mean, I can't change the fact he's not here, but I can use that depth of experience and what I've been through to help others. And so I use that to drive me to create change. And I want to create societal change around grief, because not enough of us, we don't know about grief. Like, people don't know how to support me in my grief. People don't understand how, they like say, I don't understand how you feel. It's like, well, I don't understand how I feel. So how can other people understand how I feel? Do you know what I mean? Because it's just such a deep emotional experience, and it's beyond our capacity in many ways. We're not raised in a society that supports us in our grief. In Western culture, certainly. We don't know how to grieve. We don't know how to process our grief. We don't know how to support other people who are grieving. And why not?
Yeah.
Like, I really think we've failed in so many ways.
I mean, we don't get, I mean, it's something we don't talk about. We don't get, like we talk about, the only thing probably I know about grief is the theory of there are different levels, and you go through, you know, the sadness, the anger, and all this. But I can't even imagine or translate it, because I have not been through it. But we don't talk about it. So how would you know how to go through these steps?
And the challenge is that grief is different for everyone. So yes, there are levels and things that are commonly experienced, but it's not linear, and not everyone experiences them all. There's no pathway through. Mindset is probably, I believe, one of the biggest things when it comes to grief, because the thing is when it comes, and there's so many things I didn't know. Like, I thought, you know, I didn't realize grief was a lifelong journey. But then when you think about it, because when people have, you know, I've known people who have had someone pass in their life, and you're kind of like, oh, well, 3 months, and then it's 6 months, and it doesn't work like that. Like, and this is what I didn't know, is that I will grieve forever.
Yeah.
Because my son is forever gone. So the grief will look different at different times in my life, but the grief will always be there.
And I think we talked about that last time. Like, people say the first year is the hard year. Is that true? Like, how does
Not
it get?
necessarily.
Does it get easier maybe the after these years?
Yeah, the first year there's a lot of details. There's a lot of stuff. There's wills. There's details that need to be sorted. You're in shock. The first year, your brain literally has to recalibrate your whole life, because it's not just the fact you've lost someone you love dearly. Your whole life changes. So if your partner dies, or someone that's really close to you, the life that you're expecting to live is gone. So you're not only grieving that person that's gone, you're grieving the life that you're not going to have. I'm not going to have grandchildren from Aaron. His sister is not going to be an auntie. He's never going to be an uncle. He never grew a beard. Do you know what I mean? There are so many things to grieve that just aren't here. But the thing is the grief, that pain is inevitable when it comes to grief. You will feel pain. And too many people try to avoid the pain and suppress the pain. And that's a problem. The other thing is suffering. Too many people go into what we call suffering. So, and there is a very important distinction here. Suffering is the stories that our mind tells ourselves. Suffering is guilt, is shame. It's the what ifs.
Yeah.
And whilst what ifs are very normal and natural, especially in the beginning, so that first year, even 2 years, your brain has to try to make sense of something that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Right. And so naturally you need to go through the what ifs. But if you're doing what ifs 2 years down the track, that's a problem. And coming back to your question about the timeline, the first year is a write-off. Like, I still can't, even now, I'm a year and a quarter, haven't even really gone into the fact that my son didn't even have a proper funeral. because it's too, my brain can't even think about that because it's too hard. So you get past the first year, you get past certain events, and then you get to that first year and it's like, I got through the first year. You know what, Martine? Now I have to do it all again.
Mm.
And not only do I have to do it all again, there's less support around me now than there was. And I have to do it again every year for the rest of my life. So for some people, the second year's harder. For some people, the third year's harder. It depends if they're learning how to process their grief. It depends if they're okay at reaching out for support. A lot of people will put on a mask and pretend they're okay, and they're not okay. Because I had no idea how much grief was around me until I myself was experiencing grief. So people now share their stories with me. I've got friends.
But how do you bring that in your everyday life? How do you present yourself? Because you're grieving constantly, forever inside. Like, I can't even imagine, because I have sons myself, and I can't even, it doesn't even make sense, my brain. But how do you live a life with this inside you, but still live?
Yeah, and that's the work, right? That's the work, and that's the golden question. Because it's about, and I'm doing work with the Centre of Optimism on this at the moment, actually. I wrote an article yesterday. How can I live my best life in spite of the fact my son is not here? Now, the fact I'm even asking that question presupposes that I can still live a good life.
Yeah.
Because too many people get in that inner dialogue, my life's over, I'm heartbroken, I'll never be happy again. Well, that's actually not true. So it's learning to challenge those limiting beliefs. But for me, I like to create meaning. So for me, it's moving through the pain of grief towards love. I want to remember Aaron with love, not with pain. And this is the grief journey. The grief, because grief is love. If you love something and you lose it, it hurts. And so it's moving through that pain to try to get back to the love. And it does take time. So now I'll sit there and I'll cry. But it's beautiful because I remember Aaron in a loving way. And this takes time and this takes work, right?
Yeah.
It's not an easy thing to do. It's sitting in your pain. It's allowing yourself to feel the pain, but it's also recognizing that I can still have a great life. So what can I do to honor him? What can I do to create meaning around his life? How can I include him in special events? Light a candle, tell stories about him, talk to others. You know, there's so many ways. It's about bringing him with me, creating a new relationship with Aaron, because in my mind, Aaron's never going to be gone. I can't let that go. I don't have to say goodbye. It's how can I bring him with me? So there's lots of different strategies. It's a bigger question than what we've got today. But
and what about when you have that bad day or that sad day or that sad moment? How do you suggest, or how do you deal with that moment?
Because that is going to happen, right? And in fact, it won't even be a day. Emotions cycle. It's like grief is a pendulum. So I've felt good. Last week I went on a holiday. I felt good. I had no grief last week. A couple of weeks before that, for a few weeks, I felt flat. So it's recognizing that this is a normal part of grief. Don't fight it. Embrace it. And the thing is when I'm flat, and I will go through stages, you cycle. It's just normal. That's human behavior, right? It's how we work. I was telling a girlfriend, I've been flat for a couple of weeks, and she's, maybe we should do this, we should try that. And it's like, actually, no, I'm okay being flat. There's nothing wrong with being flat. Embrace the flatness. If you're sad, be sad. If you want to cry, write a letter, get it out. Just allow yourself to process what needs to be processed, because it's there for a reason. You'll feel fine for a while. It'll build up. You need to release. Yeah. Feel fine for a while, build up. You'll need to release. Yeah. And triggers. You'll get triggered. Yeah. Triggers are a part of grief. Your triggers are your pain. So deal with the triggers. Yeah. Coaching's really helpful. This is the type of stuff I work with my clients with. Yeah.
Yeah. And what you were talking a little bit about the support, like originally, and we see that in lots of funerals we go to, like you get support like full on for a certain amount of weeks, but then you left to your own devices after that. How did you deal with that, and the fact that maybe sometime we do not know how to talk to you, we do not know what we can ask you, we do not know how even to help you. We want help and we don't know. And I'm saying you, but I'm saying all the people in grief. We don't know how to talk to you. How do we deal with that? How do we make that a bit more helpful for both sides?
Yeah, there's a couple questions there. So one is, how did I deal in the early part? For me, it was different because we were in COVID. So I didn't get the support that most people would get. I didn't get the meals dropped off. I didn't get any of that. It was very, very lonely. And that's the thing. Grief is quite a lonely journey. It's like you can be surrounded by people but still feel alone because you're sad, and it's really, really hard to cope with. I think when it comes to supporting other people, the best advice that I can give is to actually just allow them to grieve. This isn't about trying to fix things. And the amount of people that said to me in very good intent, and I appreciate it, we've got to go dancing, we'll go do this, we'll do that. It's like, I don't want to dance. I couldn't think of anything worse. Everyone's going to be different. So how are you feeling today?
Yeah.
Ask and actually listen. When you create a safe space for somebody to actually be vulnerable, that's really powerful. Use their name, like I love it when people talk to me about Aaron, but a lot of people will avoid talking about Aaron because they don't want to upset me.
Yeah.
If anyone thinks I'm not thinking about Aaron, they're crazy, right?
Yeah.
So, and this is where everyone's different. So if anybody out there knows someone who's grieving, just ask them. Share a story, would you like to talk about it? Open the door and keep opening the door. But really, just be there for them. Be open to listening. If you're not open to listening or you're not comfortable having those emotional conversations, then it might be ring them up. Hey, do you want to go to the movies? Do you want to go for a walk? Like, just be someone that's there. We can all offer. We're all comfortable with different levels, but for me, I love having the conversations about Aaron. That's really powerful for me. And being asked, how are you feeling today? Because when people ask me, how are you? What do I say? Okay.
Yeah. But do you answer truthfully, like I'm putting it between brackets here? When somebody says, how are you or how are you feeling? Do you actually answer, as somebody who is grieving, do you answer truthfully? Do you say it's not a good day for me today, or do you just okay that and just do the norm?
Yeah, as a griever, it's totally dependent on who asks me when they ask me how I'm feeling at the time. So, I've got my close friends that I will go, yeah, it's a bad day. And you know what? I'm pretty upfront. I'll say, yeah, look, today's not a good day. I'm flat. Most of the time, like, yeah, I'm fine. It's hard, but I'm okay. So it really depends. I feel like there's an appropriate time and place to go into the deeper conversations. If you're just getting a text message saying, how are you doing? I'm not going to launch into how am I doing? Like that's a phone call. That's a face-to-face. It's getting that balance right between the relationship that you have with that person. Sometimes I've had situations where someone's really wanted to go in deep, but then I've been talking and started sort of being more vulnerable, and then they've shut down and changed the subject. And then so I go, okay, they're not okay with that conversation. So you kind of got to test the waters, because we're all learning, right? We're all learning. So just be open, be curious, ask questions.
And how do you bring this into your coaching these days? How do you bring your experience? I know you do workshops and things like that, but how do you bring your experience into what you're actually helping others going through grief and trauma?
Pretty much everything I do is underpinned, like the grief journey that I've experienced really adds an element to my coaching, you know, like my How to Master Your Time workshop. It's like, what are we mastering our time for? It's to live our best life with no regrets.
Yeah.
You know, if we were to die tomorrow, it's a very morbid conversation, but if we were to die tomorrow, this is the reality. We don't know. Or if someone we love died tomorrow, are we using our time well? Are we living our best life?
Yeah.
It can layer into absolutely everything that I do. As I said, I'm working with the Centre for Optimism now. I'm running the Self-Directed Healing Practitioner training worldwide. All my programs have an element of, you know, reality, because living our best life in spite of the stuff life throws at us, so many people are grieving out there, and I had no idea, honestly. I was already working as a life coach, but the life coaching didn't really prepare me, or it doesn't really teach you about grief. So if anyone's wanting support, make sure if you're getting support for grief that it's from someone that actually really does understand grief, because otherwise I think it can be really harmful. I've heard so many instances of where people have seen therapists or counsellors and tried to get help, and if they don't understand grief, it's not helpful.
Yeah,
it's not helpful.
Is it too early to ask, maybe, but is it too early to ask, is there any positive that you see for the trauma that you've gone through, the grieving that you're going through?
Look, it is a life experience. And so I've had, like any trauma, I've had massive growth out of this experience. Do I want it? No. Would I, if I could turn the clock back, absolutely. But it is a hard one to ask because, clearly I don't want him to be gone. Yeah. But look, there's so much growth, personal growth that I've had that I don't want. I'll just give it back in a heartbeat. But I can help so many more people. And I can build Aaron's legacy and help, because that is my reality. That's what I'm dealing with now. He has gone. So how can I make the most out of an awful situation? Is I can use this experience to help other people.
Yeah.
And to help the people around me that are grieving, because everyone I know is grieving.
Yeah.
It's not just my grief. My daughter's grieving, my mum's grieving, everyone's grieving. All Aaron's friends, my friends, we're all in grief. So it's a pretty tricky thing to navigate.
Yeah, yeah. So thank you for your vulnerability. Thank you for being so upfront and sharing your story, because like what I believe in is the story that we carry, the story that where we come from actually makes us who we are today. And this is why we're here today, to actually talk openly and make people aware about our experiences and how our experiences affect our lives.
Yeah.
And it's a big loss.
There's no bigger loss, honestly. I mean, it defies the natural order of the world, and I think that's what makes my message so powerful. And I can really use that to create change, which is my business. And Create Change was my business name before this happened. So it's, I'm going to use this experience and to make as much change and bring as much awareness around grief as I can, to help more people, because way too many people are stuck in grief and suffering that don't actually need to be. So the more people that these type of podcasts can reach, the better. So hopefully I encourage your audience, my audience, to please share it with people who are grieving, because that's where the power lies. You can, anyone watching can help somebody else and make a difference in someone else's life by sharing your podcast. That's the power.
Yeah, definitely. And how can we reach you, Christy? One thing is people can send me a message if they're my friends, and I can forward it to you because we're friends online as well. How can people reach you? Your company name is?
It's creating change. And my social media handle, so I've got a YouTube channel with some video content, really good content on there. I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm on Instagram, and they're all at Christy Roberts Coaching, Christy Roberts Coaching. And my website is also christyrobertscoaching.com.
That's great. Thank you again, Christy. Thank you for your time. Thank you for everything that you share and we share together. And I'm sure we'll catch up again. And thank you for everybody listening here. There's a few messages, Christy, that you'll be able to see once you go and look at. There's plenty of messages here, Christy.
Oh, so thank you, everybody. I'll look forward. And please, if you've got questions, ask me and I'll go into the chat and answer them.
Yes. All right. Thank you very much. And thank you all. And I'll see you next week.
Thanks. Bye, Martine.
Bye.